Hello and welcome to Let's Review. As anyone who's followed my channel for a little while will know, I am a fan of the indie game developer Winter Wolves. As such, recently when I was deciding what I was going to review as well as recording next week's Let's Play, I actually realised I was going to be doing two of their games in a row. As such, I came to a decision. I fancy a theme month. Yes, for the month of September, I will be focusing on games made by Winter Wolves, starting with their RPG visual novel hybrid, Plant Stronghold. Let's start with the gameplay. In Plant Stronghold, you face off against a variety of enemies, including robots, aliens, and some human bandits, all in turn-based tactical combat. In each combat encounter, you will control 4 party members. So, for example, in this party, I'm using Lisa, my primary character, Rumi, who I've been using as my main psyker, Michelle, who I've been using as my primary damage dealer, and Bellamy, who I've been using as my heavy weapons guy. Now, as you can see, they each have several options. So, for example, Lisa is currently using the lightning laser rifle. Now, if I look at these enemies, they've got various defenses. So this BattleBot gunner has a defense of 2 against laser weapons, which means that when I shoot at him and deal a 10 to 20 shot, he will resist 2 points of damage. Different units have different resistances, so for example this one on the end has a 4 resistance to laser weapons. So it's logical for me to use Lisa and her laser weapon to attack this one on the left. This is actually a pretty late game fight against some relatively weak enemies, so I shouldn't have any problems with it. So I can fire up to 3 shots with burst, but has lower accuracy. Normal fires 2 shots, and aimed fires only a single shot, but it's very accurate and has a higher critical chance. Against relatively weak enemies, burst fire will be the most effective. 12 damage, 14 damage, and 18 damage. So his health has now gone down significantly. Now Rumi is my primary psyker and healer, so if I look at her, I have a number of options for my psionic attacks. Now if I, for example, wanted to heal one of my guys, I could use heal, select target, and depending on how much concentration you put in it, determines how much of your PP you use up, as well as how effective it is. So if I change to high, for example, it goes up to 94 to 126, compared to 31 to 42 for low. However, for now, I will use harm, and I may as well use a high intensity attack and target. Now it's got an 87 HP attack, so if I target the central one, if it hits him, it'll kill him in a single hit. So let's use it.
I'm afraid you never stood a chance.
And that enemy is gone immediately. Now we have 2 left. So the question is, do we focus our fire and definitely destroy this one? Or do we attempt to split the damage we do across multiple enemies? I think it's more logical to get the confirmed kill on that one, but for that I'm actually going to use Bellamy. So for now, I will use Burst Fire on him, because I've deliberately upgraded Michelle's accuracy to make her much, much better in a fight. Now if I use Bellamy and an aimed shot, he quite happily blows that droid away. Yes, so the enemy returns fire, and he targeted Rumi. You also have a threat generation meter, which is how likely the enemies are to target you. Now, things like burst fire and psionic attacks will increase your threat significantly. So if I fire there, you'll notice she's gone up to 32. And that will be enough to finish that.
Ha! Gotcha.
That was a pretty late game fight against pretty weak enemies. So therefore, that wasn't too difficult. But that gives you a basic feel for the combat system. There's a lot of different weapons available, and I can also have a quick look at the inventory. So I've currently got Lisa using a rifle, Rumi's using a psionic advanced thingy, Michelle's got a pretty good pistol, which I got her, and he's using a heavy rocket launcher. You can also look at my current available party. So I have 8 to choose from, Lisa has to be there because she is the leader. And you will notice that Michelle, Rumi and Bellamy all are slightly higher level than everybody that I'm not using. The simple reason being that since I've been using them for most of the game, they've leveled up a bit more than their colleagues. And that's basically it for the combat. It's all about matching up what certain enemies are weak to against what weapons you have available. So for example, if I'd been against an enemy that's almost completely resistant to laser weapons, then Lisa and her lightning rifle wouldn't have been very effective, but it's entirely possible that Michelle's bloodline pistol, which uses acid-based attacks, would have been much more effective. It's a balancing act, and it's basically your classic turn-based puzzle. The combat of Plant Stronghold isn't that complicated, certainly not when it comes down to tactical choices. All its complexity really comes from the items that you give your squads or how you choose to level them up. And to be fair, there isn't a reasonable amount of variety there. However, the combat itself, it's in no way bad, but often it feels like everything's coming down to luck. As it stands, there's also an additional mode for the game whereby you pilot a hovercraft around the planet of Stronghold. While piloting your hovercraft, you can move it around the tile set like so. Now, this map has already been revealed, but normally you would start off with a single point and you would have to move forward to investigate. If you encounter an enemy group, such as this one that I'm circling around, you can either take them on in a fight, or you can attempt to escape. And in this case, we failed to escape. Attempting to escape will use up fuel. And from there, you're dragged straight into a battle again. Now again, this is a really easy battle. I'm not going to show you again, but that's the basic principle of the hovercraft sessions. Overall, the combat gameplay of Plant Stronghold is fine. It's nothing to write home about, but there's nothing about it that really screams, oh god, this is awful. As it stands, there's enough variety in the weapons on offer and the powers available to you to make it reasonably enjoyable. As such, I'm willing to give it a pass, even though it's flawed. But to be honest, it is primarily a tool of the story. And how's that? Well, the story focuses on either Lisa or Joshua Nelson, depending on player choice, a newly assigned recruit to the planet of Stronghold. Over the course of the game, they will be drawn into a war that will decide the fate of the planet, as well as making an important decision that will swing that course in one of two major ways. In addition to that, you also discover that they may be descended from a legendary hero. Ah yes, the child of the hero coming to terms with their legacy. Overused perhaps, but often to good effect. Yeah, I'll be honest, it comes up, but mostly it's just an excuse to get the character in command in spite of their relative lack of experience. Ah well. You mentioned a choice in the story. Would you care to elaborate? Certainly. About a third of the way into the game, you are forced to make a choice between siding with one of two characters, one of whom seeks peace, and one of whom seeks conquest. And by any chance would those two happen to be related? Yeah, I'm saying nothing, I want to avoid spoilers. Regardless, I like the story. It's nothing spectacular, but it gets the job done and it's a solid enough foundation to base the game on. It also includes a number of romantic subplots, with 2 straight and 1 gay available for each gender of player, which is always nice to see. I really like the artwork for this game. It's all very nicely drawn, there's some very excellent creature designs, and every character looks unique, but as though they fit in the same universe. I'd also quite like to call out the splash scenes for the end of each romance track. Every one of them is very well drawn, they look absolutely gorgeous, and they're a really nice way to end each romance track. My compliments to the artist. The music for Plant Stronghold is... it's pretty good on the whole. There's nothing about it that really rubs me the wrong way. Unfortunately, I had to mute it during the earlier gameplay demo for the simple reason that on the full Let's Play, every episode got flagged by a company called Ind Music. As for the rest of the sound effects, they're fine. There's nothing in it that's really outstanding, but by the same standard, there's nothing that annoys me in any real way. As for the voice acting, well, as per a lot of these games, it's limited to little vignettes in the combat, which, again, they're nothing really spectacular, but they're also nothing that made me want to tear my hair out in frustration either. As always, we must ask ourselves 2 questions. Did I like this game? Yes, I did. Should you buy it? This one is a little trickier than usual. Plant Stronghold is definitely inferior to Lorraine the Amazon Princess, but since it's also older, I'm actually kind of okay with that. It demonstrates a studio learning by what came before, figuring out what works and what doesn't, and improving overall, and I'm perfectly okay with that. As it stands, yes, I think Stronghold probably is worth your money, and I do look forward to the planned sequel. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get my brain into the correct cyberpunk mood, as Winter Wolves month continues next week with Bionic Heart. I'll see you later.